Alex Answer here. It is October 22nd, 2016. I'm going to give you a brief tour of the shed, some of the things that I've got going on, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about getting before the snow sets in. I'm likely going to be remaining on the property throughout most of the winter. My RV here has done me a lot of good over the years. Fortunate thing is the RV is going to have some issues getting up and down the hill. It's also going to be exciting upgrading at some point in the next few months. If I can find a vehicle for $1,000 or $1,500, looking at a 4x4, maybe a Jeep Cherokee, something that'll help me haul water during the spring. Now I know there's been some questions about when am I going to start gardening, and I think that spring is a good time to start gardening. What do you think? Not currently set up for a winter garden without the power. So this is going to be the general area, as well as over here. There's going to be a garden, and I actually borrowed a handsaw from a friend, and without power, cut all this to help create the path. Try not to give away too many clues. Here we go to the entrance. And I picked out the colors online. We have a forest green roof. It blends in quite nicely. So, additional propane containers for the Mr. Buddy heater. 7 gallons, 15. Did a repair here to the shovel by adding a stick onto this plastic. I don't know why they made a shovel made out of plastic, but it's what happened. Got a grounding rod right here. This area is prone to lightning strikes, as you can see from some of the trees over there. And this is what enables me to come to you. This is some lumber purchased from a local mill, and I went to a local mill over Home Depot. So we have our pieces here for the flooring. This is our big piece right here, 12 feet. And so the 2x6s here are going to help provide the support for the loft. It's going to go in that back area. Power comes from the sun, of course. Picked these up last year, and they've done real well. The issue is power. I need more batteries to store the power for late night use. But one thing at a time. Look at that, we see the moon. And a tarp shed for storage, and additional firewood. And across the street. Those are my neighbors, the trees. So we run a cord from the inverter. See, right now we're at 14. 6.6 amps per hour. So we're full. This RV may be a guest house for a friend. I'm going to try to determine certain things in the next year or so. But having some assistance establishing the garden and building a guest house, guest shed, that is the focus for spring. It's the fire right there. So even though it's 1 acre, a lot of what I've shown you really is more like a 1/4 acre. The rest of it I'm allowed to grow and act as a privacy fence. The brush, the scrub oak. And this is the rigid foam insulation, and that's going to go in the upper area. We're going to go take a look inside real quick. Get a little exercise over here. And this is for collecting rain for the garden. And this is a wood stove that I picked up for $100 on Craigslist recently. It does stand up on legs. Stove is more than likely going to go here. This is a 5-inch diameter opening. So leave a link down below if you know of a special kit for this. It'll probably come out here instead of going straight up. Looking for the best deal and the best plan of action. Again, this is my generator, 150, bought in Alamosa last year. It's not as powerful as some generators, but it gets the job done. And this is the skill saw for cutting the wood for the loft job, which should be started very soon. And right now I'm using an air mattress. And this is inside. It's a big difference sleeping in here on an air mattress versus being in the RV where I'm off balance, literally, like the position of the RV, and the RV isn't even perfectly level. Meaning, there's a lot of nights in which I didn't really get a good night's sleep, not just from the cold, but from not being balanced, and the RV getting really dirty, and being in the same place, the same space. In fact, I would actually like to redo that whole RV and tear out the complete interior and completely rebuild it. So there's certain things that I want to learn. This shed here will give me some practice. This shed was built by the Amish, the pro shed guys on 160, leaving out of Alamosa, leaving the Walmart. It's going to be for my studio. Mr. Buddy heater. Leather footrest that I picked up for $3. This is the modem where the satellite comes in. Runs 90 watts. That's why I'm looking at a solar power generator. But the Yeti 150, the Goal Zero, some people say it doesn't last. So I'm thinking about whether that's a decent investment. And this is my computer. And this is a detachable battery here. And I'm going to be buying extra batteries here on Amazon. So I'll be able to have these pre-charged and run this computer at night without having it directly plugged in. Okay, this is a Himalayan sea salt lamp. And well, there's a variety of reasons why people get them. But I thought this would be the time. Kind of means something, establishing, you know, my first base, my first office, my first real studio. And over here we have the stuff to start working on the loft. You have drill bits here. I'm just waiting on some additional help. This is an LED light. And this can go for a couple of hours. Plugs in, also plugs into a computer. And this is to hold up the 2x6s, as most of you probably know. Got about 20 of these. And this is actually for video recording. So I'm going to have a stand here. It's going to be arriving in the mail. So it's going to provide a better quality lighting than what you're seeing right there. I'll also have some other lights mounted right here. This is where the main board will be going across. And again, the 2x6 is here. And the flooring up here, as you saw outside, long strips instead of OSB board. So it's going to have more of a traditional rustic look. And this is where the rigid foam insulation is going to go. And this is also a really good tool for digging out here because the soil is a lot softer. So I have my insulation in. Just need to finish doing some things. And this is actually a very decent machete that I picked up in the last year. And don't normally recommend products from Walmart, but this was actually one of the more decent Walmart items that I've had over the years. So I'm actually going to go over this wish list that I have. And what I've been writing down really is there to remind me. I'm going to put this on a tripod. Alright, so having shown you that, I'm just going to share some of the things that I'm trying to remind myself to purchase before I get snowed in. Things that'll help me get through the winter. And I'm actually looking forward to it. I don't see it as punishment. A lot of you know that I've been trying to go off-grid for a while. And even though it's not being 100% self-sufficient, eating only food that I've grown, it's a very positive step forward to being able to stay in the same place with enough food, enough water, enough power, enough oil for a lantern, for example. The first thing on my list, alternative power, alternative lighting outside of using power for my golf cart batteries. So lantern, oil for lantern, toxic-free candles. I'll probably have to look online. And I'm saying some of these things on YouTube because I haven't bought these things yet, and I'm allocating a few $100s for these things that I have right now, and I'm going to use that for my survival and use this whole recent, PayPal shutdown, internet under attack thing to start actually spending the money that I have on the things that I need. And I'm going to do that before paying off the land, in fact. I could spend thousands or everything in my account or everything for the last few months on just land payments, or I could spread it out. And I am going to spread it out, and I am going to return to building up my food storage from ground one, from ground zero, if you will. Because I left hundreds of pounds in the Gamma Seal container, all that, back at somebody's place in Estacada, Oregon, back in 2011. As you guys know, I went to Dallas and I went to Costilla County the first time. Then I went back to Portland with nothing but a backpack, went back to my old truck, lived in my truck, got all my stuff in my truck, then moved up to a teardrop camper, gave both of all that away, and then left Portland with all my stuff that I could grab and had access to, and had narrowed down in that $3,000 RV, to which I still have today, which has been upgraded with the solar. But that's about it. So, garbage bags, paper towels, things like toilet paper, lighters, lighter fluid, maybe perhaps some more cooking oil. Handsaw. Stove piping, obviously. We took a look at that outside, and I hope that's not going to be too expensive. There might be some great kits online. 5-inch diameter. It's going to come out the side of the shed instead of going straight up. I'm not cutting through that metal. And that is a really good roof. And by the way, there was a premium paid on this. This whole thing, including delivery, was $3,500. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Because it's not made of the same materials that the Home Depot tough sheds are made with. A lot of those fall apart. This could last many, many years. One of the things, though, if I was making a lot of money, yes, I would do again. I would get another one of these and turn it into a guest house on the property for friends, for example, people that visit. I'm actually thinking about at some point, with people that I know really well, maybe having a production assistant and really doing a lot more media than I've ever done in my life. And then just pumping it out, pumping it out, pumping it out. If I had help, maybe in the years ahead. For now, I'm going to be doing it all. And it takes a lot of personal life discipline to do it all, to be your own editor, to be your own, cheerleader. Come on, get up, Alex. It's time to talk about the issues that matter. But I know that I've worked so many years to get to this point, and I believe that there's been a certain amount of divine intervention to help me get to this point. Some people ask me how I did it, how I even found, the deal that I did. I'm going to be paying, of course, tens of thousands on the land, but to even be in a situation where you don't have to have the money all up front, and you can work it off and build up your self-sufficiency capabilities over time, instead of being in the middle of an emergency, no banks, World War III, rushing up to the hills, but actually instead having a few years to adapt to a certain way of life. And that's what's important. And that's what I'm really, really grateful for, because I do think that we have a few years. But I'm still taking the event of yesterday with the, DYN, the website provider, being hit by the hackers by a massive cyber attack. I would say that it's safe to say that we have been warned. And so for me, the first step isn't being the master gardener. Isn't having like free energy and it's like, okay, just be somewhere safe and have enough of the basics. Get through the winter without the need to go to town for anything. So I have several months of supply on hand, my own water, an ability to also use the snow, melt the snow. I have a water filter on my list, which is actually one of the next things that I was going to mention. Purifying that with grapefruit seed extract. So taking care of that particular issue. Filling up the gas tank outside to run the generator. Maybe digging something underground, putting the generator in it so I don't have to hear it and the neighbors don't have to hear it as loudly as it normally would be. There's a fair amount of generator use in this neighborhood. Maybe some plastic sheeting in case I need it. There's a number of things that plastic sheeting can be used for, should be used for. Maybe some headphones, some speakers, so I don't have to use the computer power to hear podcasts or music, things of that nature. I definitely want to take more time for meditation, and that's a personal thing. That's not something you go out and buy. That's a way of life. And so to develop personal life discipline to where I use the internet as a tool, but I also take long periods throughout the day like I am this morning and afternoon with the internet shut off. There are certain days where I don't post to my associate's website, and so those are days where I intentionally try not to look at news. And Saturday being today, I think these are days where I'm really going to do more videos and speak more because it's been a while and there's a lot of stuff that I am ready to start talking about, and I'm feeling like this is the time, and I'm taking it slowly. I'm not in a rush to talk about all these political issues regarding Trump and Clinton because it's really distracted people as it is. So adding to it, I don't want to add more than I really already have, and I don't really need to say more than I already have said. And so we're going to be seeing in the not too distant future who is the next selection. And from that point on, I'll tell you what, there is a lot to report on, and I'll be here doing just that. Solar power generator is the Goal Zero Yeti 150, available at Amazon for $199.99. Brought to my P.O. box. First time I had a P.O. box in a long time, so it's like Christmas for me. It's time to order stuff. Is it a good investment, or is there a better laptop charger or modem charger that'll run 90 watts for 2, 3, 4 hours, at least 2 or 3? Reviews on the Goal Zero, some said that a lot of the positive reviews are copy-paste. Some said it really lasts for them very long, and they were really disappointed. One lady said on Facebook when I posted saying, what do you think about this, an off-grid community project? She said it's more for the weekend warrior, not for the full-time off-gridder. So looking for an affordable, under $200 preferably, power pack or power source for a laptop that'll go for several hours. It may not be the Goal Zero. There may be something else that you're aware of, and so use the comment section. Use the comment section to drop links. Black leather chair, something a little bit better than the camp chair. That's right. We're going to evolve beyond the camp chair at this point, because it's important for the back to be supported. This is actually not a very good chair for me to be working in this position. And so those are things that I'm looking for locally. Those aren't things that I'm going to be, necessarily getting online. So some of these things are going to be online items. and certain things are going to be items that I get in town. And maybe I'm giving you some ideas if you're already off grid, and or you're in an urban environment and you're thinking about just simply being prepared. Snow shovel. How many of us need a snow shovel in the winter, but when we need one, we don't have one? Same thing goes for a chainsaw. I have a chainsaw, but the generator that I currently have doesn't meet the power needs of that particular chainsaw. So the next chainsaw investment isn't going to be a $100 electric one. It's going to be a gas one. The cool thing about certain Facebook groups, I noticed in this area, there are a number of people that buy and sell really good things all the time. I would say there's a mix of lower to middle to higher incomes in this county that I currently am in Southwest Colorado. So in certain Facebook groups, like in your own hometown or Craigslist, you might see really good deals on the internet. And it's just a matter of who gets there first. So certain things I have put out to the, I want that. I want that. And sometimes it's available. You'd be amazed at what pops up. I thought, I want a footrest, something cheap and leathery and looking nice. And boom, $3, thrift store right there. Also got a blue shirt I'll be doing for video reporting when I get to that phase in the next few days, next few weeks. Sooner rather than later. Relax. I'm not taking too much time off, but I'll tell you what, this last month, I took more time off from just talking about every thought on my mind on YouTube, and I chose to actually pull that in and be in a state of silence for a little bit. And being in a state of relaxation in nature is healthy and therapeutic, and sometimes it brings out the more super introspective Alex, which is musing upon something very, very deep, and not even sharing with my audience exactly what it is that I'm thinking about or musing upon, or awarenesses that I'm coming to. Some of it is very personal, some of it deals with a global situation, some of it's very intergalactic, and I can almost feel overwhelmed. Like, how do I communicate this stuff and have it seem somewhat understandable or not crazy my audience? And sometimes it's just not the time. And sometimes it's just simply a matter of being overwhelmed with the information. What I can say lately, and I haven't fully quit smoking for long periods of time, which is why I'll still cough like that. But I'll get overwhelmed seeing certain things going on. I've predicted some of these things happening by this period in time. And it's frustrating seeing so many people still in ignorance of why we're heading in a certain path. World War III is stage managed. Instead of staying in an overwhelmed state of consciousness, which a lot of people are, I came here to live off the grid, separate myself from society as much as I can, although there's neighbors around me and I still go to town. So I'm not actually in the middle of nowhere. That's what some people don't understand. I'm actually in a county that is populated, where an aspect of it is allowed to live with a certain amount of freedom, depending on what it is that you're doing, depending on what it is, and whether that area is hot or not. We know that Costilla County was a place of freedom, and then it became hot all of a sudden. And what was allowed one day was not allowed the next. And so I live one day at a time. Being that I prayed for this, and I feel a greater hand in this, I walk without fear into the future. And we'll use this place, and we'll use this literal building as my temple, as my sanctuary, to return to my path and bring back outside the box and talk about a great number of issues without having to be too distracted by too much traffic, too much noise, too many things going on in my environment, and instead point it to a personal self-discipline space to where I have all my needs and I'm not waiting on anyone or anything, but more or less waiting on my more focused self, more disciplined self to not be so overwhelmed by all this, but just keep pressing forward despite the stress, despite the intensity that they're throwing at us, but to keep moving forward, to be a light in a world of darkness. It takes work. And there are people that are angry with people like me for even bringing up certain things and sharing certain perspectives. It takes work. It takes good health, good diet, good rest, focusing on the right things, not spending too much time on the internet and all this other stuff. And that's the path I'm on, is being the best at what it is that I do. And there is so much room for growth and improvement. So all roads in my life, as far as I'm considered, have led to this particular time-space reality. And I have to be very careful who I allow on my property, what women I get involved with. It's the truth. It's the truth. I've learned some hard lessons. I've also been very lucky. I've also felt very protected. Again, I've also learned some hard lessons. Some of those lessons, though, were of the heart than harsh lessons to the body or of the body. All right. Covered most of those things. And reminded myself to be in a state of gratitude for the things that I have. You know, and I don't know when will be the best time to write a life story. It may happen this winter that I'll write an overview, just to share the intensity of the situations, of the environments, of the moving situations, how fast things were moving, how much was happening in a certain amount of years, how many lessons were involved in those series of years or cycles, and how I started looking at solar cycles and their influence over our lives in my own life and seeing it real hand and being there and going through what I was going through around 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, then having an awakening in another part of my life, ending a period of self-abuse, if you will, that period, ending when I actually got involved in the alternative media, having a sense of understanding as to who I was and why I was actually hurting to begin with going back years earlier, having that aha moment and then aligning with my path. Now, my path involving outside the box for several years, not a path without its hardship. And as I'll mention in brief, and as I mentioned in the past, going from roommate to situation, a big part of it is they knew who I was and what it is that I spoke of. And even if I never brought things up in conversation, it was just that fear of, well, if anything that guy is saying is true, when martial law is declared, they'll come to this house looking for him. Or, hey, and I was having a flashback to this the other day. I wanted to live in nature, so I applied to live or rent a guy's room in a place that he had off Woodstock and 47th in Portland, Oregon. It was the winter of 2008. It was the election. Obama was being elected for the first time. Because I was not on the Obama Kool-Aid drinking paradigm, the guy evicted me because he heard what I was talking about on my online show when I was broadcasting from my bedroom, when I actually had to live with other people. See, now I can speak and not have somebody in the next room. I have a booming voice. If I was actually in a house right now doing this video, renting a room, everybody, and maybe the neighbors would hear the sound of Alex Ansary, roll their eyes, there's that guy talking like he knows something. Why don't he just fucking keep his mouth shut about everything like everybody else and have a beer at the strip club and just inebriate yourself and escape your intense thoughts and feelings? That's the world I escaped. And in Portland, Oregon, I have dozens of roommate situations because I was too different than them. And what did I get from all that money that I invested? $400 here, $500 here, moving costs here, moving costs there. What did I take away from those experiences? Judgment is what I took away. So this guy tells me, literally, several months after Obama's elected, I'm trying to tell him, no, this guy is the banker bailouts, the expansion of the wars. And he's like, well, shouldn't we go after those Afghans and Iraqis? Didn't they hit us on 9/11? Doesn't that seem fair? Oh, another fake-ass progressive. He's like, well, you got to go. You got these energy missiles. You're saying out. You're trying to change stuff and move. You're like, oh God, like this is something wrong. You're trying to like shake the system up. Oh, I'm the bad man, not the system itself. And that's as far worked up as I'm going to get, to just illustrate and almost like channel my past frustrations. Trying to coexist in a world, being who I am, and constantly having to go from place to place to place, because of some of those things. Economic stuff was later. During the banker bailout period, and I was laid off, and I decided, I'm not just going to stay in the same type of a matrix, working and working and working and renting and renting and renting. I got to find the back door. I got to live my dreams. Been talking about this off-grid stuff for years. It's time to make it happen. So when I went to Dallas in 2011, I never knew that Costilla County would follow that. It was fate. It was destiny. I was led there. I prayed for that. Now, never mind the current stuff in Costilla County. Because the Creator can still answer our prayers in some cases, or our angels. A miracle can occur. And we'll put out the intention that this is what we want, and we may not have it forever, but we may hold in our hand 9 months, for example, which is what I was privileged to have, in a year that somebody abandoned, but gave permission for certain friends and their friends to use the structure in the cold of winter to survive the elements in the coldest part of Colorado, Costilla County. One of the coldest places. They thought I was crazy. People thought, well, why try to go out in the middle of the desert, off the grid, and try to do videos and talk about stuff from there? Because I felt that I was doing something that I had done before in another life, or that was a rite of passage for men. And I learned later on that certain Indian tribes would use that area as a vision quest area. And that was interesting. So they would come out, warriors of tribes, use that area as a vision quest area. And I learned about this from the Chris O'Brien books and a few articles online. There's a lot of things that the Native Americans haven't shared with the white man, if you will, because a lot of the truthful stuff that they have shared was used against them, I believe. So they have their own reasons why certain things aren't shared. But there is something mystical about Blanca, about Alamosa, about that area. I'm no longer there. It's hours from here. But a lot of these places that I visited are connected energetically in some other way. Call it a vortex, call it a portal, call it an ancient land. I often think about ancient Colorado and what was really going on here a long time ago. I think about the same thing from Portland. But I ultimately have left the Pacific Northwest. Excuse me. Where I was born several months before Mount St. Helens on February 25th, 1980. And this was several months later, also during Solar Maximum, both of them. And here I am in Colorado. Both these books are from the 70s. And I've walked with a fair amount of faith that I would be okay from Costilla County all the way to today. A couple books here I'll share. This is some silver. I thought I would redo an earlier video that I shot because this was sitting in the back and I figured people would think it was full of pills. But no, it's not. This is my ancestor, the 11th century. During the Dark Ages, he spoke against the radical version of Islam. You can learn more about him online, but he's on stamps in Iran and Afghanistan today. Some Westerners have worked to translate a lot of his stuff. If you look at the cover photo on my Facebook page, that is by my ancestor. And so a lot of it really is Gnostic and leaning. And I find it really interesting that both of us were 36 when we went off grid to speak our truth away from the major cities. Here's another book on my ancestor. So Sufi Islam, or Sufism, is more aligned with Gnostic thought, which deals with, what is the matrix or what is the true mind of God type of stuff, than typical monotheism. Control. Control of women. Things of that nature. That was a time where I would say that my ancestor had more balls than the average human being to be speaking about a fundamentalist, oppressive system. And I think it also shows that when you truly have faith in the Creator, when you truly speak genuinely in favor of the Creator, and you stand against evil, sometimes you might be surprised. And he died of old age. You know, the establishment in Kabul, they were conspiring, if you read about his life story, against him. We got to shut this Ansari guy down. He's speaking out against our establishment. You know, he's not trying to oppress the women. He's for women being educated. We have to do something about him. And they plotted, and they plotted, and they plotted. And even though they eventually came after him, and he did 5 months in jail, in these dark ages of Afghanistan, Herat, Afghanistan, he still lived, I believe, was it 74 or 80s? But it was at least 74 years old. And people aren't typically known to have lived that long during those periods. But that was a period of a renaissance of Sufi mysticism and spirituality. That was, in a way, in that area, countering the darkness, countering the evil. That is my legacy. That is where I come from. And I'm not afraid, ashamed, panicked, or ridden with anxiety as I was 3 months ago, because I came from that line, because I see this hate building. And the Muslims are invading, the Middle Eastern Muslims, and people confusing Middle Eastern blood and Muslim and radical Muslim, and all this hate. And in the face of this hate, in spite of that hate, I feel a calling to share with you about this guy. And I think it's an interesting aspect of history that all of us, not just myself, but many of you, could benefit from knowing men like him existed and stood against systems like that. Not just to see that there's more to Middle Eastern history than radical Islam that punishes and hurts, but to also be inspired and realize the odds he was against in the dark ages of Afghanistan, and he continued being more of a Gnostic Sufi thinker anyways. To me, that's worthy of remembering. Let's take one last look outside. And the current air mattress is definitely an upgrade from the RV. Now, with a few friends that I can trust, I think that this would be a good spot for the next shed to be built. Probably less than $1,000 in materials, maybe even for $500, and a lot of that could be getting or sourced locally. But I need more people to get that project done. And a treehouse here, or over there would also be a good second project. Again, space for a garden there, and this whole general area. Just have to move that. As well as this. Also need to build a fence. Could use help with that. And that's all for now. I'm Alex Ansari, signing off for October 22nd, 2016.